Hey everyone, Clay here. Just wanted to let you know I've got a new comic book out right now from Comixology Originals and Amazon. It's called Hardstyle Juice. It's a professional wrestling murder mystery, so if you're into pro wrestling and comics and all that good stuff, you're going to want to check it out. And it's free to read if you have Amazon Prime. It's a digital-only comic. If you want to check it out, head over to hardstylejuice.com, and that'll direct you right to the page where you can check it out. That's hardstylejuice.com. Thanks, guys. Hello! Welcome again to the Rotten Horror Picture Show, a horror movie podcast where we talk about films off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list.
That is the number.
And we are into the second 100.
Oh, shit, we are.
Of our 200. Actually, technically we're not, because we actually haven't done 100 movies from the list yet. Because every 5 movies we do one that's not on the list. So.
Oh, my God. Don't make me do math.
Anyway, my name is Clay. With me, as always, is Amanda. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm good. I'm here with my disembodied hand, and I'm ready to party.
Excellent. Did you get that on Etsy?
I do have a God. What are they, like a hand of fate?
Oh yeah. Is it a candle?
Yeah.
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 Like the Wicker Man.
Yeah. Exactly.
How many of these plaster hands do you think are being sold on Etsy?
I think A24 sells them officially.
Oh, I hope they would.
Yeah.
They probably shut everybody else down because that's a really easy one to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're talking about Talk to Me from 2023, which is this is our 101st episode. We had our 100 episode spectacular. We talked about Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yes,
and
the scariest zombie movie of all time.
Yes, and as we get back into the swing of things, right away we have. Our first movie is a Pump the Brakes Here, Rotten Tomatoes movie, because this Talk to Me, which came out last year, 2023, is number 30 on our list, which I'm going to say feels a little high.
Yeah, it feels a little high. A little high.
And I lost my paper. Where is it? It's number 30, has 95% Rotten Tomatoes score with an 82% audience score.
Wow.
Yes.
That's high. I kind of expected the audience score to be more split.
People like this movie. It was very popular.
Yeah, no, but
way back in like October of last year,
way back 18 months ago. But I also remember
it's a different time.
Some people very much not liking this movie and thinking it was like way overhyped.
Yeah,
I feel like there was a vocal percent of the audience.
Lefties,
in general.
Lefties mostly. The left hand is very maligned in this film.
That's true. Yeah, maybe that's why they were mad.
Had you seen this before? We saw it together, right?
We did. Yes, we saw it with our friend Meredith.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Goodbye,
that's
everyone.
Much it. Early, not much to say.
But I remember coming out of it with her, and we all kind of had slightly different reactions to it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to revisit it and sort of reassess.
Did you
second watch?
Did you find your opinion of it changed at all in the second watch?
I did. I think it didn't work quite as well for me.
Okay.
In the second watch.
I remember having a lot of questions going into like the third act that made more sense this time. Mm-hmm. And as they made more sense, it made the movie a lot sadder.
Yes. Yes.
Which is something we can get into.
No, this is definitely one when I sat down to rewatch it, I kind of remembered as it was starting what the basic plot was, and I was like, oh man, this movie is really cool in a lot of ways, but it's also a super bummer.
Yes.
It's really, really dark.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes it a little bit hard to track, at least for me the first time, is because that ending, you're expecting things to kind of, you're kind of thinking, well, okay, well, she's got a prevail here somehow.
Right.
And so as you have that at the front of your mind, and
What
things
actually
play out
happens.
the way they do, you're like, okay, she's not the hero of this film, I don't think.
No.
Anyway, we're going to play the trailer for you, and then we'll talk about Talk to Me.
You busy tonight?
You want to turn, eh?
My mum leaves at 9.
So you're 10.
So where'd you get it from anyway?
Apparently it was the hand of someone who could connect with the dead.
I heard it was the hand of a Satanist. The other hand's just out there.
White people shit, man, I tell you.
All right, let's do this! You know the drill. Say, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Haley, fucking stop it, he's choking!
83 seconds, get it off him.
What if we opened the door but we didn't shut it?
Delete it. Delete it, come on!
The spirits, they followed us. We have to do something! You want to do it again? They're not gonna stop.
What was it?
What? I don't know!
I let you in. I let you in. Oh my God.
Okay, Talk to Me, directed by Danny Philippou and Michael Philippou, written by Danny Philippou, I'm probably saying that wrong, Bill Heinzman and Daley Pearson, starring Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, Joe Bird, Zoe Terakis, Chris Alozio, and Cookie the dog.
Aw, Cookie.
Amanda, what happens in Talk to Me? Talk to me about Talk to Me.
There you go. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits with an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill and high-stakes party game until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not
More
far
or
off.
less, yeah.
Well, some things you'll find in Talk to Me include foreboding animal euthanasia attempt.
Yeah, there's a few things in this movie that I feel like have been pulled from other popular movies. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is not the first time we've seen, in the first 10 minutes, running into a dying animal with your car.
Isn't that Get Out?
Yes, it happens in Get Out.
Yeah.
It happens in, remember The Invitation?
Yep.
As they're on the way to the
ominous
titular invitation.
animal roadkill incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always symbolic of something that
Yes.
happens later, as it is in this as well.
So many undeveloped prefrontal cortexes.
They're just kids, man.
But like the lack of empathy between the kids is like, oh yeah, this is actually how teens would probably react.
Yes, this Darren Mooney, who is a friend of the Penske File family, wrote a nice article about this movie where he says that this is the rare occasion where it's a horror movie about teenagers that doesn't feel like it was written by 50-year-olds.
Yes.
Which is very unique.
Yeah, the kids in this do feel pretty authentic to late teen age. Thought Dog.
Thought Dog.
THOT.
What a sloot.
Aw,
Cookie's just kissing any undead person that she comes across.
Only the one.
I did have to rewind it and put the captions on to make sure that Mia was calling her a thought.
A thought.
Which
and not like a thought experiment.
No,
Yeah.
which for those who are unfamiliar is a slang term for this is from dictionary.com, a woman who has many casual sexual encounters or relationships.
You mean that hoe over there?
Yes, derogatory, it says. Derogatory, noun, derogatory, informal.
Yes.
So you won't be hearing anybody call the queen, well, you probably will, but
Yeah, I mean, she's dead.
Yeah, she is.
So maybe she was the spirit.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe grab the hand, see what happens.
Yeah, the queen comes and tells you what everyone's doing wrong.
Although probably not. Because I think I realized something about the ghost this time that didn't occur to me that's probably very obvious, but we can get into that.
All right, we'll get into it. The ultimate third wheel.
Mia or the ghosts?
All of the above.
Yes.
There are so many third wheels in this movie.
Well, you've never... You're telling me you've never tried to break up a relationship by sneaking into the bed and just putting someone's entire foot into your mouth?
I mean, it had never occurred to me, literally at all in my entire life.
Oh, yeah. You're young.
Posthumous foot fetish.
Yeah, speaking of the devil. That was real. That was the weirdest thing they could have done.
There are
good choice.
There are some great gross out moments in this movie.
Yes,
this is like a gross out classic already. And last but certainly not least, extreme questionable parenting.
Yes, both living and undead.
And step. Yeah.
Step
parent.
Who's the step parent?
The stepmom, Sue.
Which one is Sue?
The mother? The alive mother.
The alive mother. That's a stepmother?
Yes.
For who?
I thought that... Isn't she sort of like a stepmom to her? Isn't she like...
I think she's... I don't think... There's no connection with the families.
Yeah, the parents aren't together?
No.
Okay.
It's just...
she's still sort of like an adoptive mom.
Yeah.
She's like
a
mother.
surrogate
yeah,
mother.
She's a mother figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, the thing that stood out to me this time, the party at the beginning.
At the very
opening scene.
Yes.
That kid's mom is there.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, like cutting snacks.
Yes.
For the rave.
Yes.
That ends with a kid stabbing himself in the eye.
Yep.
So, a little questionable there.
A lot of questionable parenting.
And of course, Mia's mom making questionable choices in her life and afterlife.
Yes.
One of the things that stood out to me this time, this is not a bad thing.
Okay.
Necessarily.
You're setting it up like it might have been.
Well, like I said, I feel like this takes from other things that have come recently. This movie feels very similar in construction to It Follows.
Oh, yeah.
The opening scene has a very similar vibe to It Follows, where you're kind of being thrown into the middle of it.
Yep.
And then you're kind of like, what's going on? Then there's a very traumatic thing. And then you meet the new characters and they kind of get into it.
And it's very teen focused.
Yes.
Sort of young adult focused.
It's also a story about a dead parent ghost.
Yeah.
Which not everybody can see.
That's true.
So I wouldn't be surprised if when they sat down to do this, they looked at other horror movies in this milieu.
Yeah.
And kind of used that as a guide, which is not a bad thing.
But, no. Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this movie is it's kind of like, I found it to be the unique instance in which it works equally for kids and parents, because it's kind of a moral panic come to life thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it works for the kids because the kids are involved in it and it's fucking scary and shit.
Yes.
But it also works for the parents because the parents are watching the kids do this.
Right. It's sort of like every parent's worst nightmare.
Yes.
You leave your kids alone and for the evening, and when you come back, something horrible has happened to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
something horrible and hard to explain.
Yes.
And
something where if you were to hear somebody explain it on the news, you would not understand and you would go, I need to stop my child from doing that.
Right. It would be like the Tide Pods thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a big part of Darren's write-up on this is how it's kind of, it's a very authentic Gen Z horror movie, which is what I think which is what I think it is.
Yeah.
What did you think of this generally?
This is a movie where I really like it. Like I really appreciate a lot of the elements that are in it. Like I think it's very well written. I think it's very well acted. I think it looks great.
It does. It looks really good. Yeah.
I think it might be a little over sound designed.
Okay.
Like this time through, I kind of noticed where I was a little bit like, we could maybe tone some of this down a little. Like, I don't know. There were just a couple things where I was like, all right, I get it.
All the thought sounds.
But it is such a fundamentally sad movie.
Yeah,
about a really, really lonely person.
Yeah.
And so that can kind of make it a tough watch. Like, you just sort of watch Mia start from a really hard place, and then things just get worse, like unrelentingly for her. And then on the flip side, it has some of the most memorable gore and kind of gross out moments of many movies, I think, since maybe the decapitation scene in Hereditary for me.
It's been a while since we've had a good eyeball scene. And this one, they don't go all the way with it, but they go close enough.
And they spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not a quick flash and then away. Like, it's a moment.
Yes.
That you have to sit with that person trying to claw his own eye out.
And you don't usually get an aftermath of that kind of violence and trauma, physical trauma that you have in this movie, where it's like, you don't exactly just recover from that. You don't just put a bandage on it and you're fine.
Yes, we're not cutting to some indeterminate point in the future where they're like artfully bandaged but look otherwise pretty much okay.
Yeah.
Like, Riley looks horrific for most of this movie.
Did you see a couple of years ago, I want to say it was the pandemic era, where in WWE, they did a thing where Seth Rollins popped Rey Mysterio's eye out?
No.
It looked about as bad as you think it would look.
Yeah.
It was really, they were trying everything they could back then.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's, I think they do a really good job of taking a concept which is very supernatural, obviously, and keeping it very grounded.
Yes.
Through that sort of depiction of violence and the aftermath of violence. And I mean, I hate to get into the what's the word? The cliche that everybody likes to harp on with these, elevated horror movies, but it is another movie about suicide and grief and depression and stuff, which is what happens to people. But I think they do a pretty good job of using that stuff as a motivator, but not having it necessarily be on the top level the way some other movies can. Because, like, I can see you disagreeing with me.
Yes.
Because the thing, so the watching it this time, a couple things occurred to me. One, I wasn't sure if they were trying to imply that Mia, running parallel with the ghost stuff. They were implying that maybe Mia had some inherited mental issues.
Okay.
Because, her mother killed herself.
Yeah.
And she gets very depressed about it. And there is a way you could read this where what she's doing is just spiraling out mentally versus actual supernatural stuff. Second thing that didn't occur to me the first time, all these ghosts are suicides, right?
I don't know.
I think that's the implication, is that all of these ghosts are suicides.
Yeah. That would make sense because somebody, I forget who, but somebody makes the comment that, well, these spirits are in limbo.
Yes.
And the kind of classic
Catholic.
Christian view on a suicide was that you can't go to heaven. You're out. You're just stuck.
Right. Yeah.
And limbo used to be a much bigger thing in like Catholicism and that kind of belief system. Yeah.
But it occurred to me that, especially since that's
a good observation. I wonder if that's true.
Yeah. That's how Mia goes out at the end. And she immediately ends up there. It made the whole thing a lot more depressing.
To think that all the spirits.
Yeah. All of these. I don't
know if that's true though, because there is a little girl spirit, like a really little girl.
They can kill themselves too.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they can, but the likelihood of that is much lower.
True.
Yeah. But that's a very interesting theory. I'd be curious to see if that was like an intentional thing or just something as an audience you could read into it very neatly, like it fits well with the movie. Yeah.
But I found it, because I was trying to track like why. Okay, so I think the first 2/3 of this movie are real. I think the first third is great.
Yep.
I think the middle is pretty good.
Yep.
I think the third act, it all works in a larger sense, but I kind of feel like you can feel them grasping a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of the dialogue is like literally Mia going, well, what if?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you're just typing what the writer is saying.
And I was like, what if we just keep trying it?
Right. There's
like, what if we just keep using the hand?
And she's kind of right every time, sort of.
Yeah, or people just sort of go. Like, they're willing to believe her, even though it's this sort of interesting thing where, like, everybody blames her for what happened to Riley.
Yep.
Like, everybody explicitly says, no, this is your fault. Like, there's the scene where after they confront the guy from the very beginning, the brother who survives his brother attacking him and then killing himself. After they get like off the bus or whatever, Mia tries to say like, well, we all thought it would be okay. And like Haley and Joss, the other two, are like, no, you did. Like, that was all you. We just sat there and let you, like, you made that choice that this is your fault.
Right.
And then they're also... So on the one hand, they're like, all of this is your fault. But on the other hand, they're like, we're going to keep listening to what you say.
Yes.
Which is like a weird...
There is a lot of swinging back and forth, but I find a lot of it is in ways that are believable.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The way that Jade's mother completely turns on Mia at the hospital is very shocking.
Yes.
But it feels believable.
Yeah.
Given the situation.
Yeah, well, and given the kind of mom she seems to be.
Yeah, and she likes Mia, but she clearly, Mia has some history of, maybe smoking a joint or something like that. Enough that like as a parent you can claw into that and be like, it's her.
Yeah. No, look, I was in a lot of ways similar to Mia. Like, I lost my dad when I was a teenager, and I was then, for a while, my friend's sad friend.
Sure.
Even if I wasn't acting sad, and even if my friends were, like, cool and understanding and reasonable about it, a lot of the adults, my friends' parents were very kind and very caring, but they clearly did not know kind of how to handle it.
Like, sure. Yeah.
Am I, like, do you talk to her about it? Do you not? If she's acting like it's okay, do you just act like it's okay too?
Right.
But also, is she going to start like, is she going to kind of fall apart? Like, do I have to be careful about like what is said around her? Like, is she going to start acting out? Because that's kind of a cliche in a way of like, kids who lose parents for whatever reason sometimes go through phases where they start being rebellious or whatever.
Right.
So there was always a little bit of like an added care, but it could also be an added level of observation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, you poor thing, but also I don't really know what to do with you and you make me kind of uncomfortable and I worry about my kid hanging out with you.
Yes.
And I think, especially where it's like, well, she's got this history of, she was really depressed after her mom died. And like, what if she starts down that path again? And like, I have to protect my kid. I can't let it's almost like it starts to feel contagious.
Yeah.
And so there is that sort of underlying concern about it that the minute it's proven that or you feel like that concern has been proven correct.
Yep.
It's like you're willing to be like, nope, you're out, you're done. Get away from my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the flip side to that, the way that Jade's mother comes back around and apologizes feels equally as believable.
Yeah, it does.
Because she realizes that she overreacted and, you know.
Yep, there's evidence that Mia was telling the truth. There were no drugs in anybody's system. There was no...
But yeah, I think the way that they set Mia up is really well done because they do a good job of kind of world building this history that she has with everybody without explicitly really getting into it. Like the stuff with but the relationship that she has with Jade's mom. Zoe apparently hates her, but you never really find out why.
I think the character's name is Haley.
Haley. Is Zoe the person's real name?
Yeah, I think it's
Haley.
the actor's real name.
Haley apparently hates Mia, but you never find out why. It's just one of those like high school things where
she sort of says like there's one line that struck me where she said she's so clingy it's depressing.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that. Like kids and teenagers have a really good sense like of they can detect that kind of like that level of neediness and insecurity, and like I can totally see why someone like Haley would find that really off-putting, because Haley's just like, I'm just here for a good time. Like, I want to party, I just want to enjoy myself, I don't need this, like whatever this is, I don't need it, and I don't want it around bringing everyone down, because no one knows how to deal with the grief girl. Yeah,
and I think they do lay that stuff out pretty well.
Yeah, it's subtle enough that it's there, but it's not like a long monologue about.
Yeah, they do it with that first handful of minutes. They do it with like looks. They do it with reactions.
Yeah,
and that all works really well in you know the kind of person Mia is, and she's in that moment at the party. She is the kind of person who feels like an outcast.
Yeah,
and who wants to be. It's like a double-edged sword of like you're smoking the joint because you want to be cool with everybody, but also you're hoping that the drugs fuck you up a little bit.
But there's also that level of there's a conversation between Riley and his friend when at the very like early in the movie when they're waiting to get picked up at night, and they're talking about another kid from school, and one of them says, "Ugh, he's such a try-hard."
Yeah.
And there is that thing too, where it's like the people who are perceived as cool are the ones who are really casual and just sort of like relaxed about it. And Mia is trying way too hard.
Yes.
Like she feels so alone and unmoored, and she is desperate for some sort of connection. And so she clings too hard, and it drives people away.
Yeah.
That's what I think a lot is happening really subtly in the movie, like throughout, like especially in the beginning where, she wants to hang out with Jade all the time. She's at their house constantly. She sleeps in their living room like regularly. Even when Jade wants to like be alone in her room and call her boyfriend, Mia like doesn't want to let her.
Right.
Because she's holding on to what little she has way too tight.
And that's a good thing that I think they lay nice groundwork for without bringing too much attention to it too, is that clearly Mia has feelings for Jade's boyfriend.
Yep.
Which they play out in a pretty clever way. I think that scene when they're in bed together and all she wants to do is just touch his skin, not even like sexually, just to touch him.
Yeah.
Is really effective.
Yeah. Mia initiates physical contact a lot in this movie. Like she is you can tell she's kind of like touch starved. Like it seems from the videos she shows on her phone that she had a very like warm and physically comfortable relationship with her mom, and that she's missing that. Like she clearly doesn't have it with her dad.
No.
So like she goes to Sue for a hug. Like she goes for the hug and Sue gives her a hug, and she's kind of always like bumping into Jade or like grabbing her or kind of like putting her arm around her, and she's like touching Riley's hair, and like she's just clearly again like she's trying to get this connection. And I think that's why there's like so many shots of hands in this movie, and why using the hand is such a kind of obvious but also effective symbol, is that she is reaching out all the time to try and connect somehow with someone.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the thing that stood out to me this time was I thought the way that they visually portrayed her relationship with her father was really clever, because every scene with her dad, there's just no lights on.
Yep.
It's very dark. Yep. It's very cold.
His face is always kind of blurred, like until later in the movie, you never really see him.
Yeah, and it just gives you this impression that, well, A, he's still clearly grieving over the death of his wife, and B, that there is just a real, like, Jade's house is a lot warmer. There's lights on.
Yep.
It's a lot of reds, a lot of yellows and stuff, and her house is very gray, very blue.
Blue, yeah.
Like, I don't even think she gets within like 3 feet of her dad until she stabs him in the neck at the end of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So it's very, very distant that way, I think it's really good from a visual storytelling standpoint for all this stuff that a lot of other movies would beat you over the head with.
Yeah, and I think the point about the colors is really interesting because there's a lot of blue in this movie and there's a lot of yellow.
Yep.
And like those look really good together, obviously, but also like I think the implications of the yellow is really fun to play with because it is sort of, as you're saying, like Jade's house there's a lot of yellows and oranges and that feels very warm and inviting. And Mia is almost always wearing something yellow.
Yeah, she is.
Like she wears like a yellow sweatshirt all the time. I think she's got like a yellow like long sleeve shirt on at one point. Like she kind of is trying to surround herself with that. But I also can't help but be a lit nerd and think about Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper,
of course,
which is, the symbol of a woman forced into isolation that slowly drives her insane.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a fun, and then also at the very end, the yellow of the candlelight that draws her forward. So it's this really fun arc using this one color to sort of do all of these different things. And again, like you were saying, not totally beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, it's nice when movies take the time to do that kind of.
Yeah.
I think there are some movies that can do that stuff too. Obviously, like I think the whatever technique they're using is not as sophisticated. But this one I think is pretty good.
Yeah, because visually.
Yeah, because they are doing a lot of storytelling through color and through the images and stuff.
Yeah.
However, but when you get into your nuts and bolts of your story, once you get to that third act, like I almost feel like I can see the writers hanging out together going like, well, we can't have her find a magic book because that would be dumb in a movie like this. And so you end up getting this weird thing where it's just kind of like Mia going, well, what if we did this? And they're like, okay. I'm like, oh, what if we did this? I'm like, okay. So, and like, that's where it kind of starts falling apart for me. I don't think it's like irreparable damage. I just don't think it's as tight. Because that first, the core of the idea is so good and so well executed that like the hallmark of a great idea is clearly they didn't know how to finish it.
Yeah, I think they had an ending in mind.
Oh, definitely.
I think the very end of this movie was something they were trying to get to.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do we get her from, this beginning and middle to this last scene or sequence? And I think there had to be like, all right, well, we have to have the mom, Sue, kind of reconcile with her, and we have to have her, she has to feel like she's exhausted every other option and like she's out of options. Like this is the only thing she can do. And so I guess we have her kill her dad. And then like I guess we have her get Jade out of the room, and we have her try to use the hand again on Riley. Like it's like they kind of had to throw all the spaghetti at the wall in order to show like, well, see, now Mia has been pushed to the final point where the only idea she has left is to kill Riley.
Yeah. I think the thing that gets a little bit muddy for me in this one is, and I think it's okay that things get muddy. I don't need everything to be explicitly spelled out all the time.
Sure.
But I do find that once you get into the thing with the mom, and then you start getting into the thing where the mom seems to be evil, and then you start getting into the thing with Riley, and then she's seeing ghosts without the hand, and the ghosts are starting to like control her and tell her to do bad things. Like towards the end, I'm like, I'm not totally sure what she's after at a certain point. It just gets a little bit, and maybe that was my fault of, as I was saying, watching it the first time and like expecting things to be a little bit more cut and dried.
Yeah.
But I kind of, Mia seems like she kind of loses her path a little bit as far as like what her drive is towards the end.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what made me start thinking about the ghosts and like the suicide thing. Cause I'm like, well, why are all these ghosts evil? Like, that's super depressing too. Like, if all of these ghosts just keep getting wetter for some reason, which you had a theory. What is your theory about the wet ghosts?
That all the ghosts Mia is seeing are one ghost.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's the drowned woman.
Interesting. Ooh, I just got a chill.
Yeah, so she does at the party, she takes her first turn on the talk to me hand.
Yeah.
And they go over the 90 seconds. They don't end it the right way. They fuck up the ritual. And after that ghost never leaves her.
Yeah.
So she's never actually seeing her mom, because we learn from the very beginning that they can make you see things that aren't real.
Sure.
They can make you see people who aren't there. They can impersonate people. And I think she's just being manipulated by the drowned woman.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Which is why, especially when she sees her mother, because there's the other thing that people say is that the longer, pretty much they say kind of Cole, I think his name was Cole, I don't know, the brother of the guy who dies at the very beginning.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He says, wait it out.
Mm-hmm.
They get weaker the longer they're in a person.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's happening to Mia. I think when it starts for her and she has the wet ghost, the drowned woman, there's that scene that night where she's on the pull-out couch in the living room and Riley is going to sleep in the bed next to her.
Yep.
And when he falls asleep, she sort of takes like his earbud out and she takes his phone away. And then another kind of gross looking hand touches his skin.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of your sign that like that ghost has not left.
Mm-hmm.
When she first sees her mother looks almost normal.
Yep.
And then as the movie progresses, she gets progressively wetter.
Yes.
The other thing is almost, I think every time the mother appears, you hear water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice
yeah,
that.
there's either some sort of trickling sound or...
You're making me like this movie a lot more.
This is, I kind of noticed this time through, and this is one thing that worked better for me this time, where I was like, oh shit. But yeah, you get the water sound effects, and she gets progressively wetter until that very end scene at the highway, where if you look at her, she's bloated, and she's kind of distended, and she's becoming the drowned woman.
Yep.
And so I think it really is, if Mia had just been able to hold on longer, the spirit would have kind of lost the power to impersonate her mom. Mm-hmm. And eventually disappeared. And
it seems like the implication is that is what's happening with Riley too.
Yes,
because they do have. Jade has a moment where she says like, "Oh, I think he's getting better."
Yeah, he woke up and he seemed like himself. He wasn't trying to kill himself.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think that's actually what, like, functionally is happening to them. But she's so deep in it, and she so wants to believe that she's found a way to talk to her mom again.
Right.
And this version of her mom is telling her everything she wants to be true, which is, of course, I didn't kill myself. I would never want to leave you. I miss you so much. I'm so proud of you. I just want to be with you. If you kill Riley, I'll take care of him. I'll be here to look out for him. He and I will be together. You know, and it sounds like everything she kind of wants, you know.
Right.
She wants her mom, and she doesn't want to go back to not having some semblance of her mom in her life.
Yeah. Man, this is a depressing movie.
It's a really fucking sad movie.
So is the child ghost, she's like a good ghost, I guess? Sort of?
That one I haven't fully figured out if that's a real... I think that is a real separate ghost who does kind of say, I can show you...
Yeah.
What's happening.
The grand shunting that Riley's in the middle of.
The grand shunting. Poor Riley. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I mean, so that's my theory of all the wet ghosts, is that they're all one.
No, I believe it. That makes sense to me. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Because I was thinking that, like, when I was assuming that these were all separate ghosts, it's like, why is her mother so mean? That's so sad.
Yeah.
Like there's no non-sad reading of this movie, I don't think. Although it does seem, based on, what you're telling me, the theme of this movie, the lesson seems to be, just wait it out.
Don't talk to strange ghosts.
Yeah, grief, it'll go away.
I mean, kind of. It is sort of like a sort of, slowly over time, sometimes even imperceptibly, these things do get better. They never fully go away, but they get better and you learn how to live with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I do think this movie is kind of saying that, where it's like, there's no quick fix. There's no way to just totally undo it and make this go away. Like it never happened.
Yeah.
You have to sort of move through all of it.
Yeah. So what didn't work for you this time?
I don't know. Maybe the fact that it's just still so damn sad.
Yeah.
I think maybe being so sure that it's not her mom made it harder for me to follow Mia in her decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many of her decisions seem really selfish.
Sure. Yeah.
And on the one hand, that's understandable because she's obviously grieving still. But on the other hand, it's really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really frustrating to see her kind of like she's like imploding everything in her life that she did have.
Right. Yeah.
And I think kind of realizing, at least the way I'm reading it, that is the drowned ghost. You just want to like yell at her the whole time. Like, it's not your mom.
Right.
Like, you should not listen to it. It is not your mom.
Your mom didn't leak water from her forehead when she was alive.
And would never tell you to kill a child. Like, so I think some of that got a little like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is tough because it does, like, once you kind of sit with it for a minute, it's just like, this is a real downer.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, there's the upswing at the end that she doesn't kill Riley, but she does kill herself.
Right.
Which is not that much of a win, really.
Yeah.
And that final sequence when after she's dead is heartbreaking.
I do think it's a really good ending, though.
The ending is great. Yeah. I do feel like the ending is probably they wrote that shortly after they wrote the beginning scene. And, they give you that nice setup early on when she talks about the dream where she looked in the mirror and she would, had no reflection, which obviously they pay off at the end there. And it's the great setup for I don't know if you wanted, it would be a direct sequel, but the end of it is great where it's now the hand has somehow made it to South America, apparently.
I don't think it's South America.
Is it not South America? I thought they were
so.
speaking Spanish.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they were speaking, but it was not Spanish.
Oh, all right. Portuguese.
I know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think that would have sounded similar to Spanish. I don't know what they're speaking. Could be like, Albanian or something.
Listen, I barely leave my house, okay? I don't know what other languages sound like.
Well, here's my other question is that the same hand?
Good question.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Damn it. Now I got to go back and look. Because it did stand out to me this time that the hand that they're using is a left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason in my head, I'm picturing that final shot and the guy's using his right hand.
I can't remember.
I could be completely wrong. And I could just be wanting to make for good radio.
But
great radio.
Great radio. But when Haley and Joss are talking about the way it works, they're kind of like laying out the rules at the smaller party before Riley takes his turn.
Yep.
They say, oh, it was the hand of a medium or like some sort of like witch or something, a Satanist, and like they just cut the hand off and the other one's probably out there somewhere, which is a really interesting thought that like.
No, it's his left hand.
Damn okay.
It.
So it is the same hand.
Sorry, I just pulled it up. Now we're just watching it.
But it is really an interesting idea that there could be another hand out there.
Yeah. I was trying to see if I could find what that language was, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's executed pretty well. I think that first scene, the first hand scene, is great.
Yes,
it's very, very. I mean, I think the hand scenes up through when Riley freaks out are all really, really good.
Yeah,
because they do a good job of deciding what to and what not to show you.
I really like that. Actually, I like that choice of like you only see what Mia sees.
Yeah. Very similar to It Follows. where
yes.
you get certain shots where you see someone reacting, but you don't see what they're looking at.
Yep.
Sometimes they cut to their point of view so you can see. Sometimes they don't. And I love that all of the kids react differently.
Yes.
Where some of them are really big and some of them are just kind of like, they kind of shiver and like divert their eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very well done.
Like when Riley pretty much just like mouths, "What the fuck?"
Yes. Yes. It's also, and this is something that Darren brings up in his article, which you can read on Escapist mag, I believe is the name of the publication that he wrote it for.
Cool.
The Escapist. It's a movie where cell phones exist as just part of it's part of this thing that this is a honest Gen Z horror movie. Because the thing everybody always says, like, horror movies were so much better before cell phones. Because cell phones just break the plot. So, well, yeah, if you're not writing your world as a world where cell phones just exist the way that they exist.
Right.
And this is very much presenting cell phones as the way they exist, specifically for Gen Z kids who they have always known phones with cameras on them.
Yeah, they record everything they do with their friends.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Which is the other thing that adds a level of kind of horror to this, especially when you think about Daniel's first time using the hand, where he ends up making out with the thought dog.
Yes.
Everybody's recording that.
Yep.
And the internet is forever.
Yep. Well, he says delete that as soon as he's done.
Right, but somebody has like all their shit backing up to the cloud.
Yeah, they never delete it.
You delete it off your phone, that doesn't mean it's gone. So that's an extra, in my opinion. That is one of the more horrifying aspects of this film.
Yes.
Is that you're possessed to make out with a dog could be, ruining your future job prospects in 10 years.
Well, what I like about it too is that that's not part of the story. It doesn't become like...
Right. It's not like they did post it and now he's a pariah.
I think a worse movie would do that, but this is not, that's putting the kind of emphasis on the technology that is hacky at this point.
Right.
The thing that Darren says at the end of his article that I really liked is he says, kind of sums it up saying, "Talk to Me is a horror story that speaks to a generation that has been raised to see human suffering as means of generating content. It's about the nightmare of locking out the people in one's life to connect with a bottomless pit of monstrous ghouls, as well as the detrimental effect that can have on one's sanity. It's a smart and mature take on the reality for a lot of modern teenagers, but it's never heavy-handed." Nice pun at the end there. But yeah, there's a way you can read it that there's a lot of, this is kind of, it's very indicative of what life on the internet is like to a certain extent, where he's saying, you're kind of reaching out and what you're pulling back is not very nice, and it can pull you down with it.
And it tends to prey on your insecurities and,
Yes.
and kind of manipulate you from from the things you would rather not confront.
Yeah.
From the parts of yourself that you don't want to deal with, and it will find those weak points and target you there. And that's what the internet does, and that's what these ghosts do.
Yeah. I did find it strange that one ghost made it a point to mention how Hillary Clinton puts children in the basements of pizza shops.
Oh my God.
Pizza shops. That was a little strange, especially for Australian ghosts. Let's see, what else is there to talk about here? Mental illness, ghosts or suicides.
I also do love how this is sort of like an updated take on an urban legend.
Ooh, which one?
Well, it just the concept of urban legends, Like,
oh, sure, yeah.
Like the fact that these kids have somehow gotten this hand.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't mean to cut you off, but it is kind of like, going back to the phone thing, it's like if urban legends were real,
yes,
this is what it would be like, where everybody would have pictures of it.
Yes.
If there was actually something weird like that going on, it would be all over Twitter.
But also the cool thing
TikTok.
Nowadays, like you can fake this stuff.
Oh, sure.
Like it's not whether you fake it, it's more difficult to fake this kind of thing in real life, but especially in a video. Like in a video somebody posts on the internet, you can be like,
I'll be honest with you.
They made that up.
I'll be honest with you. That shit creeps me out.
How easily it is to
yes,
like
what
face
is the term?
swap and
the larger term, because I'm old and I don't know. See, that's the thing that I think scares parents is you have no idea how deep the well actually is with this stuff. You think you have an understanding of like what the computer does.
Yeah.
You do not.
Yeah.
There's different languages. There's different subsets, and it goes deep and
the dark web, Clay.
Yeah. But like, there's this concept of the ARG, the altered reality game or something like that, where basically it's
well, and there's augmented reality.
That's what I'm thinking. Augmented reality. So it's kind of like a larger. I know people are screaming at me because I sound so fucking old trying to explain this, but
just in case anyone was wondering, Clay is transformed into an 89-year-old man.
Yes, my sweatshirt has turned into a cardigan.
Yeah, his belt is up under his nipples.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my nipples are touching my knees. But like this idea that there is a game being played in real life to a certain extent, that stuff creeps me the fuck out, because people do that and they're totally aware of it and they're in on it. But when you kind of like glance past that stuff, I find it very creepy. Like WWE has actually been doing some pretty interesting stuff. Building to the theories that it's building to the return of Uncle Howdy, the Bray Wyatt tangential character who was played by Bray Wyatt's brother. Yep. And the stuff that they're doing is really fucking creepy. Like they're doing, the feed is like going out and there's, there are clues that you can follow that bring you to websites, and like there's one thing that gives you like a DOS page.
I'm sorry, but I love that you're talking about this like this is a modern current day phenomenon.
No, it's not. But that's the thing. It has always creeped me out.
Yes.
Ever since the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
The minute they were like, no, this is fucking real. Go to the website and you'll see all the real documents. It creeps the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when it comes to like video, that freaks me out even more, and I don't know why. Like because it feels like even if it's fabricated, there's something about like presenting something in the sense that you have found footage. Yeah, literally. Yeah. That is very disturbing to me.
Like, because for a very long time in modern human history, something that was caught on film was incontrovertible evidence. Right. Like if you saw somebody on camera go up and steal a car, that was it. That was, okay, that person stole that car. Like, we know this for a fact. And now you can't trust what you're seeing. Yeah. There's depending on the provenance of the video, it's like, this could very easily be manipulated. Yeah. I do think it's interesting going to those like, this sort of like ARG, like alternate reality or augmented reality games and stuff like that. It reminds me of We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Yes, that exactly.
And why that kind of stuff gets creepy, because it's like, well, wait, how much of this is real? And if somebody is convincingly playing the game, are they really playing the game, or do they really believe this, or is this really happening to them? And people, I think the scary thing is people being willing to blur the line between reality and fiction in that way is, it's disorienting. It makes you not trust what you see. And
I get it. Like those things, like anytime you get one of those things where it's like, this is a YouTube channel. And all the videos are like grainy surveillance footage of like a person sitting in a corner. Yeah, that shit creeps me the fuck out, because it's like, that's why stuff like Paranormal Activity worked on me so well, because it's just you're kind of stewing in it, right? Yeah, like there's no rhythm to it the way that there is to something like this movie. Bringing it back to the movie.
Good segue.
Or just generally. Traditionally created narrative, where you can sense the rhythm, you can kind of like anticipate how things are going to go. When you don't have any idea, when you just dropped into the ocean, you don't know what's swimming right below you. Right. And that's why it creeps me out so much. Yeah. Especially the ones that are just like, you stumble upon a YouTube page, right, and it's just fucking weird shit. It's like, I don't know what that is.
Those are my favorites.
Can they see me? I don't know.
Maybe.
Who's to say?
Entirely possible.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, adding sort of the technology aspect to this movie without making it the point of the movie is really smart, because it does somewhat date this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, in another 10 or 15 years, like God only knows what kind of phones we're going to have and like how people are going to treat them and what the fuck's going to be going on. Because, 15 years ago, there were iPhones, but like people didn't use them this way.
No, definitely not.
And there wasn't this guarantee of like whatever video somebody just took of you right this second is already on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it worked. But at the same time, even though that would date this movie, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
And I think the way that they treat it in this prevents it from, it doesn't date it any more than let's say you're watching Nightmare on Elm Street, right? They talk to each other on landline telephones.
Yep.
They watch black and white tube TVs with antennas on the top of them. Yeah, that dates it to the mid 80s.
Right.
But it's not like you don't watch that movie and go like, oh my God, it's so old.
Right.
I mean, some people might, but just
yeah, because the point of A Nightmare on Elm Street is that everybody has to sleep and everybody at some point has dreams, whether or not they remember them. That is a universal human experience. And the point of this movie is that everybody goes through grief.
Yeah.
Like everybody is grieving something at some point, whether you've lost a pet or a grandparent or a parent or a friend, like we're all going to experience some level of grief. And so, yeah, you can't, even though the environment might be dated, the point of the movie isn't.
Right.
And the fact that the hand is the mechanism and not like a chat room or a Zoom call or something.
This
makes
movie, sorry, finish.
No. Just makes it easier to relate to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this movie won't date as poorly as like Evil Speak.
Yes.
Which is like, what if an Apple IIe could talk to the dead or whatever?
Yeah, could become possessed by a satanic priest.
Yeah, I was just thinking though, how amazing. Or bad, I guess, would it be
amazingly
if
bad?
you took the thing, you said talk to me, and then it's just and you're like, did my dog kill himself?
Oh,
like how come no dogs show up?
I mean, see, here's my thing. I question your suicide hypothesis because I don't know if the drowned woman killed herself.
Who's to say? I mean, you don't know the background of any of these ghosts.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take Mia's mother out of the equation, and if my theory is correct, I think your theory is wrong.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah,
because I mean, they can coexist.
True.
There's no reason why that drowned lady can't be evil because she was killed versus suicide.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I would be really interested to know if that was the case, because I think I honestly, I don't really think it matters that much.
No,
but it is one of those things where they kind of give you enough that you can kind of go that way if you want to, which again just makes it that much more depressing.
Yes, it does. How do you feel about the rules around the hand?
Like the actual time limit stuff,
and the candle and all of that. Like, how do you feel about that? Does that feel a little like overly precise to you, or not precise enough? Because I do think sometimes it's tough. At least for me, I sometimes crave a rule.
Yeah,
like sometimes I want to know. Like, wait, well, but how does this work? And then sometimes when you're told how it works, it can almost introduce more questions.
Yeah.
Like the 90-second thing.
Well, so the way that I kind of read it was all the stuff that they were doing was sort of like accumulated knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think they walked the line pretty well, but where you're kind of in like Candyman, Bloody Mary territory, where there's like, there's like a, just a number attached to it for some reason that just is
people have
totally arbitrary.
Out. Yeah.
It's like, why do you have to say Candyman 5 times, but Beetlejuice only 3? You know?
Yeah.
Or Bloody Mary only 3. So in that does feel very urban legendy about it, where it's like this is just the story that has been told.
Yeah.
You know, tying the person down, that detail is like, well, okay, because this is how the people go nuts.
Yeah.
I want to know how many people are out there who have how many people went past 90 seconds and ended up with ghosts in their bodies and blowing their own brains out or whatever before they realized maybe a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Cap it.
Exactly. Like, yeah. I mean,
how many experiments did they do to figure out 90 seconds was
like,
the golden number?
That has to have, you were saying, like, accumulated knowledge, and I think that's a good way to put it, because it does feel like something that they have learned over time, and that every so often somebody goes past it. And, like, they Haley and Josh knew the guy from the beginning
right?
Who kills himself. That's how they got the hand. So they know, like, oh, he went past 90 seconds and look what happened to him. He was seeing shit without the hand. He tried to kill his brother. He did kill himself. So, all right, we're going to keep it to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's still, so it feels like there has to have been those sort of, like, people who passed to the limit and then the corrective measure of, like, oh, shit, well, that was bad. But, like, you know, they keep doing it.
Yeah.
Which is the thing.
It's another thing that makes me think that they're all suicide ghosts is because the end game seems to be to get you to kill yourself. Because the kid at the beginning stabs himself in the face. He stabs his brother, but it's not the same thing as like the Riley thing, obviously. And that was that wasn't a kill shot. He just went for the shoulder. But
yeah, it's interesting though, because my question is, are they actually trying to get you to kill yourself? Because at the very beginning, that guy says to his brother, Dad told me you're going to hurt a lot of people. And the brother says, Dad's dead. And then he stabs the brother. And then he stabs himself.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, were the ghosts were telling him, kill your brother.
Yeah.
Your brother's going to kill a lot of people. Kill your brother. But we don't know if the ghosts were saying, now kill yourself, or if he was just like fully possessed. Was it
the wet lady pretending to be his dad?
No idea.
Is this what she does for fun on the other side?
Maybe, but it seems like there's a lot of ghosts on the other side. Yeah. Like there are tons that they do that don't stay in bodies and that don't seem even coherent. Or then there's one where they show somebody, I think, praying in like Spanish or something and crying. And that seems more like a sad ghost, not like a murder your family ghost.
Yes. There's always a murder your family ghost.
Yeah. Gotta have one.
You just can't let the humans be happy.
Let families live.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we start rounding it out?
No, I don't think so. I feel like there's a lot you can talk about with this movie.
Yeah.
You can get into a lot of different.
What's your overall take at this point? Would you is it a recommend for you?
I think it's a recommend, but I don't think it would be one that I would say you're going to want to go back to this one over and over again. I think it's like a very beautifully shot movie and it's very impressively detailed.
Yeah.
But again, it I don't know. It didn't quite work as well. I remember coming out of it and being sort of like, dude, holy shit, wow, when we first saw it. And the second time, just it has less force to the impact.
Yeah.
After you know where it's going.
Yeah, I think it on rewatch, I think the stuff at the beginning is still really good. I think, you know, I hate to say this because it's kind of the meat of everything, but like I think some of the more relationship stuff can drag a little bit.
It also does just get like sad to watch Mia just get like rejected by everyone in her life.
That's the thing is like it's
for like 27 minutes.
All the things that we've talked about and how you can read this a lot of different ways, or there's lots of little kind of clues you can pull out, make it more interesting to me. But it's not the kind of movie that I'm going to want to throw on and just what, you know, like there's, it's just too bleak.
My one caveat would be if you get the opportunity to make other people watch it.
Yeah.
And you get to kind of watch them watch it.
Yeah, watch them get actively depressed in real time.
Well, and like freaked out because
Sure.
I will maintain that the scene with Riley where he starts like trying to destroy himself is really hard to watch.
Yeah, it
like
is.
it's fucking intense, and that kid really goes for it.
Yeah.
He does a great job selling like every gruesome shot in that, and the eye thing is just like, whoa.
I think he's good in general in the movie because I
Yeah.
think he has to play a pretty meek character that then kind of really turns on a dime
Yeah.
when he gets possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking this, but this time the scene where he gets scared and wants to go sleep with in his
Yeah.
sister's room.
Yeah.
The only thing I was thinking was this is the least realistic thing in the movie because that 13-year-old boy would immediately want to go sleep with his sister's hot friend. I don't know if
But I think the point is he thinks of Mia as a sister
That's
as
true.
well. Like
That's
I
true.
think the point is that she's in a lot of ways kind of a better sister to him than Jade is because she wants a whole family so much more because she knows what it's like to have a broken one, you know, to have lost a huge part of her family and to have her dad be essentially a non-entity in his grief. And so, you know, you see Mia goes and picks him up when Jade puts him on mute on her phone, even though she knows she's supposed to pick him up, like, which is a extremely believable teenager thing.
Yes, very much so.
And then when the mom first comes home at the beginning there, when Jade has kicked Mia out of her room so she can call her boyfriend, Mia goes and sits with Riley at the kitchen table and helps him do his homework.
Yeah.
Which is like the kind of thing you want to see your teenage kid doing for their younger sibling.
Yeah. Which is so interesting given the what's the word I'm looking for? Given the way that they set Mia up as not destructive but trying too hard and being a little bit clingy or having a little bit of you know, the mother can be a little suspicious to have her be the one who is doing the more sisterly things is interesting.
But it's like that's not what a quote unquote normal teenage girl would want to do.
That is
what
true.
normal teenage girl would want to sit with her kid brother and do homework in the evenings instead of being texting a boy or whatever.
It is weird a little bit the way that they characterize Riley because I think he's supposed to be like 15, but he feels like he's like 12.
He feels very young.
Yeah, like there's no 15-year-old boy on the planet who is going to get scared by a lightning storm and admit that to his sister so he can lay in her bed with her.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna maybe there is somewhere, but just generally I'm going to assume that's not common.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's on purpose though, to
Yeah,
make what
probably.
happens to him later on
Yeah.
extra horrific because he is this very like he's shown as this kind of sensitive kid who's maybe like immature in the sense of like still seems very young. Still is sort of reaching out for that comfort and support and not getting it anymore because he's too old.
Yeah. And it also, you know, it makes the moment when he says, I want to do it, and Jade says no.
Yeah.
It feels more honest than the way they usually do that stuff where it's like, well, why not? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Why not? It's not like they haven't, just because he's younger, like that's
right.
Where here they're actually like, yeah, he's kind of
right. He's a sensitive kid,
Yeah.
and I think it draws more of a parallel between Riley and Mia, where they are both sort of needy in this way, and that's why their relationship actually works. Is because like she really wants to be needed, and he really needs someone. And so having this like surrogate big sister around is kind of perfect for him. He's like, he gets that sort of attention and affection from someone, and she gets to have somebody who kind of focuses on her and thinks she's really great and cool.
Yeah. It's like a Bob Seger song. This is number 30 on our list. How do you feel about the placement? A little high, a little low? Should it be on the list at all?
Yeah, I mean, so I will say I do think it should be on the list.
Interesting.
I do. I think it's kind of a culmination of a bunch of different things. Like,
yeah, I can see that.
you know, I think it stylistically really works. I think, like you were saying, it's a very good example of like a Gen Z horror movie. And we don't have many of those right now.
No, I'm assuming we're going to see more, and you and I will be more and more alienated from the genre.
Yes. Dipping back into the classics more and more often.
Back in my day, people wore gigantic polo shirts. And that's how you knew it was a serious horror movie.
Back in my day, you stuck your head out of the car window to try and breathe and got your head cut off by a telephone pole.
I just imagine Freddy Krueger showing up in 2024 and just like looking at the state of horror movies and him just going like, honestly, I just gotta feel bad for these kids.
Yeah.
It's really just, I'm not really adding to the equation.
Maybe
here.
I'll start targeting boomers. I mean, they were teens when I was active.
Why am I focusing on the kids? They have enough problems. Yeah. Why don't I focus on the parents?
They're all going to die from climate change anyway. Yeah. So just wait it out. No, I can see why this is on the list, and I do understand that, like,
I called one girl a bitch and they canceled me. I don't know what that means.
And I do think there's a lot of moments in this movie that are genuinely scary.
Yes.
Like I think the ghost designs are really good. Like they look really gruesome. The drowned lady is disgusting looking, which is great. This movie is like fucked up in a couple scenes in like a special way. Like there's some memorable scenes in this movie. And I do think it's well acted. I think it's overall like a really well done movie. I would put it much closer to the 200 spot, though.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking of...
You're still thinking of Freddy?
I am. Because I'm thinking of Freddy saying, welcome to primetime, bitch, and having the girl go, I don't understand what that means.
Yes.
Because, like, what does that mean anymore?
What is primetime?
But yeah, would I keep this on the list? It's tough because these movies that are new that they put so high on the list, I get immediately suspicious of.
Yeah, because it feels like in another couple years it's going to fall all the way off.
Right.
Once the hype has died down, it's sort of like a Quiet Place Part 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
one for that matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, but 2 especially.
2 especially, yes.
Because it's like a fine movie. It's a very enjoyable sequel, but I don't think it's one of the 200 best horror movies of all time.
No.
But in this case, I would give this one some leeway.
Yeah, I would say my diplomatic answer would be there are movies on this list that I really
want to say, what is this, NATO? What are you, in the UN? Your diplomatic answer.
There are movies on this list that I would remove before I would remove this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm definitely taking that into account in my answer to this question, where there's some like, One Cut of the Dead is a great time. It's a fun movie.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I don't think it should be on this list.
Yeah. Well, not even that. Well, like there are some horror movies on this list that I would remove that before I would remove this one, because for various reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say I think I would agree. I would say it can stay for now.
Yeah.
I almost kind of wish there was like a probationary period or something.
Yeah.
Not that any of this matters because it doesn't, but yeah, I would be curious to revisit in like a year or two and see where it is.
See if it's still on at all. Yeah. But if you told me this one was like 186.
Yes, I would
like,
believe
cool.
that.
All right. Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me. I am going to hit the randomizer button. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. And next time, we're staying in the 2000s with number 94, which also feels a little high. Don't Breathe.
Ooh.
Have you ever seen Don't Breathe?
I have not, but I have wanted to for a long time.
Don't Breathe is really good, and then it gets really fucking weird towards the end.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking for. This is one that a friend of mine. Well, I kind of wrote this movie off.
Yeah.
Just because, like, yeah, whatever. And then my friend of mine was like, "No, it's really good." And I finally watched it, and I was like, "That was pretty great." So,
is this one I'm going to end up like screaming about for some reason?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. Who's to say?
I mean, in terms of like, I hate this or this movie is brilliant.
It's a really well executed. it's a really well executed, simple idea that, like a lot of these movies do, you get to the third act and you have to kind of like shift gears and it gets kind of weird.
Okay.
And you kind of go, well, the first 2/3 I thought were really great, and then this one, take it or leave it. But
okay.
But you may love it.
All right. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Join us next time. That's all I got. No. Thank you guys for listening.
Weird outro.
If you want to help support the show, head over to patreon.com/thepensky-file, where you can follow Amanda and I as we continue our journey through the Halloween franchise this year. We are coming back this month with... my brain farted. What month is it? The 4th month.
Yes.
So Halloween 4.
Isn't that convenient to keep
is
track?
Convenient.
As opposed to last sequence when we were doing all of the video nasties.
Yes.
And who knows what was going to happen.
We have the triumphant return of Michael Myers.
Yay.
We'll be covering this month. I'm looking forward to that one because I know a lot of people really like that one. I think I've seen it like maybe twice, and it didn't really do it. This whole Halloween series should be called Halloween. I've seen it like twice, and it didn't really do anything for me. At least that's my subset anyway. But
we'll see what mine is.
Yes.
I'm still working on mine.
But thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Clay.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.